Hi there, my name is Everett Shaw, and I worked with Russell Smith on this presentation over hazardous waste disposal. To discuss the issue a little bit, we have over 39 million tons of hazardous waste in America that we need to manage each year. It's waste that poses substantial or potential threats to public health or the environment. American hazardous waste is currently regulated by the Resource and Conservation Recovery Act, which I'll talk about in the next slide, but it's a little bit dated. It's also currently handled completely by the EPA. There are some smaller entities that work with the EPA to ensure that communities can dispose of their hazardous waste in a manner that is best for the environment. You might see scenes like this, and it's a problem that's growing in America. We definitely need to figure out a way to solve it, and so we're going to talk a little bit about what's currently being done, what's been done in the past, and how long this issue's been around. To give you a brief history of the problem, the 1970 Solid Waste Disposal Act required that the EPA, which was also founded in 1970, investigated the storage and disposal of hazardous wastes. This led to a 4-year report that eventually made its way to Congress and discussed exactly what it was supposed to. This convinced Congress that something needed to be done, and the 1976 RCRA, or Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, came about. It defined hazardous waste that can cause illness or pose a hazard to health and to the environment when improperly stored, transported, or managed. The RCRA is also what we currently regulate our hazardous waste management with today. To kind of touch on the small issues that have come up with the RCRA, as Americans continue to progress and our industry grows, we have more and more hazardous waste. The vast majority of hazardous waste actually comes from industrial factories, plants, and things of that nature, but what we can do as citizens is more what we'll touch on today with household hazardous wastes. Here you see some numbers about the amount of metals, miscellaneous waste, and solvents that are recycled or recovered under the legislation of the RCRA. Overall, you can see it's less than 4% of our total hazardous waste that we produce each year. So effectively, you're leaving 37.5 million tons that don't really have any legislation regulating them. To talk about how we can change the problem or how we're causing it currently, we need to discuss household hazardous waste, HHWs. They're defined as any solid waste classified as hazardous that's generated in a household by a consumer. A lot of times it's not even used items, it's something like buying paint or motor oil, which you can see make up 70% of our household hazardous wastes that we don't use all of and eventually have to get rid of. 20% of hazardous waste is solvents, pesticides, and herbicides, and the other 10% are batteries, unidentified materials, and miscellaneous items such as chemistry sets, photographic materials, and fiberglass epoxy. And you think, oh, well, that's only 10%, but we use a lot of batteries, chemistry sets for schools and things of that nature, and we definitely take a lot of pictures. So to think about all of that and then consider that that's only a tenth of the problem, we can see it's pretty significant. There are 5 main types of hazardous wastes to be considered that really kind of generalize them more than you have to. You can get pretty specific with it. Obviously, we have lots of products that are lots of different types of hazardous waste, but the 5 main ones are explosive, which can catch fire, explode, or give off dangerous fumes when exposed to air or water. Reactive, which are unstable chemicals that may react spontaneously with flammables, water, and other chemicals. They could be explosive. Poisonous and or toxic, which can cause injury or death when inhaled, ingested, or absorbed through the skin. And corrosive, which can eat through clothes, metal, etc., and severely burn skin. And then obviously, flammable is pretty self-explanatory. It can catch on fire. One of the important issues is where our hazardous waste is and how it's moving, and in order to really tackle the big problem, we have to see where the little ones all come from. The vast majority of hazardous waste runs through natural bodies of water. So you see stream runoff, groundwater that supplies drinking water, which can obviously be very hazardous for human health, and floodwaters. And after Hurricane Katrina, harmful waste actually moved significantly rapidly because of the water that was coming in due to the storm. You also see that sometimes hazardous waste is buried in the ground. We see this a lot with landfills, and toxins such as mercury, which is what we have in thermometers, persist in the environment and accumulate. Humans or animals absorb them when they eat fish. So let's talk about some possible posed solutions that we see in the industry today. They suggest using substitute products with less potential hazardous components. You see this with like the cleaners that you see at Walmart that are green cleaners, and that entire line of green products. They are all designed so that they don't create household hazardous wastes that come significantly from cleaners that we use just to keep windows clean and things of that nature. Buying smaller quantities of the materials. A lot of household hazardous waste is just leftovers. It's paint that you didn't use when painting a room or something of that nature, and it might be more cost efficient to buy 2 gallons of paint, but if you get the paint and a pint, that might be all that you really need to use, and then we don't end up having to figure out what to do with this other paint that we have left over. You can use products up before purchasing new products. If you're touching up with paint and you see that it's worn over the years or something like that, instead of going and buying new paint, make sure that you don't have paint left over from the last time. Or if you think that's ever going to happen, which it does a lot, then save the products after you've used what you need of them at the time and come back to them later when you need to use them again. Check for products that can be disposed of at home. We talked about the green cleaners that you see in Walmart and the grocery stores and things of that nature. Buying stuff like that companies are being innovative with and coming up with ways to not produce hazardous waste throughout our environment are very important, because then you can use those freely and not have to worry about it once you're done. And then you see communities more and more attending collection events or establishing collection entities that are used to facilitate the safe and effective recycling of hazardous waste. We do have a lot more implementation of places to get rid of the hazardous waste than I think we realize, but sometimes it's difficult for us to get it there, or it's just inconvenient, and so we go to throwing it in the trash. And it's important that we recognize that those are there, and if our communities are doing things like the collection events, we need to utilize them and make sure we're getting rid of it properly. This is an informative TED Talk that we found that kind of discusses architecture and how you can avoid producing hazardous waste in the way that we build buildings and things of that nature. The link will be posted on the website. And the link for this interactive simulation will also be posted on the website. And you can talk about how you dispose of some of the hazardous waste in your home and tell the simulation how you manage that, and it will tell you how good of a job you do with managing your hazardous waste. Here's our Works Cited page. Thank you very much.